I'd like to start by saying, as all the other speakers have done, thank you so much to the British Council, not just for inviting me, it's a great privilege to be here, but for all your wonderful organization, both beforehand and during the conference. And I want to say that this talk operates on two levels. One is linking in with the whole anniversary of the death of Shakespeare 400 years ago, by taking the framework of aging. But within that framework, I want to give it an ELT slant as well and look at different texts or anecdotes, poems, stories, songs that relate to each of the ages and look at a technique you might use to help learners engage with that text, okay? And that's a kind of trick question anyway. When you ask a group of people to go back over something and just ask themselves, what's the most interesting thing I've learned? It's a good way of getting them to revise pretty much everything, because you have to check back over everything you've done so far. But I would be very careful with the word text in a classroom. Just imagine you're saying to students, okay, today we're going to look at a text. How do you feel? Does that sound very exciting or motivating? The other thing is, I don't know about you, but if I am confronted as a teacher or as a learner with a huge, long text, I find it very daunting. So I think we need to think about ways of breaking things up in the classroom. The other thing you can do is when you do this, you say, okay, when I read the text or when I listen to it, if the words I predicted occur, I get a point. So you make it into a game. If, however, any of the words I didn't expect occur, then I get a minus point. So in the end, you can do a tally. Okay? So make it into a kind of game. Give people a reason for engaging with the poem. In fact, Covey's original one is be proactive. What does that mean? It means you don't hang about waiting for things to happen. You go out there and you make things happen. And I think it's a bit like that for us sometimes. We're so busy with our lives, we don't stop and take stock and look after ourselves and try to maybe improve what we're doing, rest up. Covey talks about looking after ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and socially. Yeah? And in a sense, that's what you're doing here this weekend. You're sharpening your professional saw. We have a lot of bright young things in our materials very often. And they're a bit samey. And celebrities. And, you know, there are lots of people out there, older people, people of different ethnicity, disabled people. And I think we need to be a little bit wider in our approach to who we represent in our language materials. And this is a technique I'm sure you use where you take words out of a text and you present them. And then from the words, you pre-teach the vocabulary, and you get students to predict what the text is about. And the obvious thing to speculate about, if you got to the end of your life and had it to live over, what would you wish? Find your voice and enable other people to find theirs. So that's what you're doing as teachers, isn't it? You're finding your own voice and your own ways of doing things and enabling your students to find their voice in a new language. And it doesn't end there. In the 90s, you start going backwards. I was just 92. If you make it over 100, you become a little kid again. I'm 100.5. May you all make it to a healthy 100.5. Thank you. I think the British Council have been wonderful, not just to me personally, they've really looked after me here, but to organise such a mega event and attract so many teachers from so far away, and just there's a really good vibrations in the conference. It's really exciting. You feel a sense of excitement. And this room, for a speaker, is really quite scary because it goes on forever and you can't see people at the back. But it's wonderful that they've managed, through their fantastic reputation, to attract so many teachers from all over the place. Hats off to the British Council.